Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the previous video, we set up our inventory menu, the context menu that appears when we click on an item inside of our inventory menu. And we also set up all this script for what happens when we've clicked on an item in our inventory, presenting us with the option of using the cancel button, the drop button, and the use button. So we did a lot of work inside of our inventory in the previous video. In this video, we're going to create the text that appears above our pickups as we approach them in game. And then we're also going to create our first pickup as well. So let's go ahead and compile and save the Game HUD blueprint if you didn't do so from the previous video. So I'm going to compile and save, and then close the Game HUD blueprint for now, widget blueprint for now. And also going to close inventory slot because I still have that up for some reason. So I'm going to close that. And we're going to work inside the pickup text widget blueprint. So inside the content browser under UMG folder, open up the pickup text widget blueprint. So go ahead and double click, open it up. And we're now going to start working on the text that appears above pickups inside of the game. So first thing that we're going to do, hop over to the hierarchy, make sure that you are on the designer tab. Make sure you go down to the hierarchy. We're going to kill our canvas panel because we don't need that. We don't need absolute layout for this. We're going to go up to the palette section, and under panel, we're going to grab a horizontal box. So let's grab a horizontal box, left click, and drag and drop that on top of our pickup text there. And then all we need is some text. So under common, let's grab some text, left click, drag that on top of our horizontal box. So that's all we need to do. Going to select the text block inside of the hierarchy here because we need to make some changes to it really quickly. So in the details panel, we are not going to enter information for the text here because this is going to be a variable. It is going to be driven by the item that this is, the pickup item that this is associated with. So we're going to have to create a variable for this to be bound to. So we're going to hop over to the graph. Let's go to the graph tab. And over in the My Blueprint panel, under the variable section, click the Add Variable button. And we're going to call this pickup text. So down in the details panel, we're going to change the variable type to a text type. So go ahead and select text, and then compile. Then hop back to the designer tab and assign that property as the binding. So we have now bound this text to this variable. So that's all we need to do. Let's go to the graph tab now. We need to provide the functionality of how this text is actually displayed in game. So to do that on the graph tab, first thing that we're going to need to know is where should this text appear over which particular pickup, as we have not specified that yet. So let's go ahead and do that first. We're going to go over to the My Blueprint panel and create another variable. So new variable. This is going to be called pickup actor. And we're going to go down to the variable type, change the variable type to an actor. So let's search for actor, object reference, actor, like so. And we need to expose this. So let's make this publicly exposed, like so. And let's compile really quickly just for the sake of it. And now we can start working on the actual graph, the functionality inside the graph here. So for this, we're going to use both the event construct and event tick. I'm just going to move the event tick down for a second. On the event construct, the only thing that we're going to do here is drag off of this and say set alignment in viewport. So go ahead and select set alignment in viewport. And for the alignment, we're going to set the X and Y values to 0.5. This will give us the center of the widget, essentially. Or the center, displaying it in the center for this widget. So now that we've set that, that's all we need to do. For the event tick, what we need to do is drag off the executable here and say set visibility. So set the visibility of this widget. We're going to set that because we don't always want it visible. And then the next thing that we need to do is set position in viewport. So set position in viewport, like so. So up here, we're setting the alignment in the viewport. Now we're setting the position in the viewport. And this position, where this is actually going to be defined, we're going to need our pickup actor for that because we're going to be centering it above our pickup actor. So let's hold Control and drag in our pickup actor. And let's right click in the graph and let's search for get player controller. So get the player controller, like so. And from the player controller, what we're going to do is drag off the return value and search for convert world. Convert world is all we need to search for. Yeah. So convert world location to screen location. What this will do, as the tooltip says, converts a world space 3D position into a 2D screen space position. So we're going to use this to drive the display of our pickup text. So go ahead and select this. You can see it's got some inputs and outputs. First thing that's asking for is a 3D world location. That's going to come from our pickup actor. So let's drag off our pickup actor and let's search for get actor location. So once we get the actor location, we could plug this vector right into this vector like so. However, that would mean that the text would appear directly at the location of our pickup actor, and we kind of want to offset that. We don't want it appearing directly inside of our pickup actor. We're going to bump it up along the Z so it appears above it. So I'm going to drag off the return value here and hit a plus sign and use a vector plus vector. And the X and Y, we don't need to worry about, but the Z, we're going to bump this up to say 50. So 50 units above our pickup actor. Sounds about good for now. You can come back and change this if you'd like. Then we can take our output here, plug that into the world location like so. The next thing that we have to do is our screen location and this return value boolean here. For the screen location, that's going to be our position that we want to set it in the viewport. So let's just connect this to this like so. And then for the return value, this boolean here, we are checking if the world coordinate was successfully projected to the screen. In short, what this means is if we drag off of this and say select, we search for a select node, and we use select, it's going to give us a true or false. At that point, we can drag off the return value here and plug this into our visibility, and watch what happens to our select node. We now have the option of setting the visibility to either any visibility that we want for either the false state or the true state. So for false, we're going to set this to hidden. And for true, we're going to set it to visible. And that is it. That is all we need to do. So let's compile and save and then close this blueprint. So the next thing that we need to do is create our actual pickup, in our level, or that we're going to be using inside of our level. So let's go to the content browser and let's go under blueprints, not character, but blueprints. And let's right click in an empty space here and let's add a new blueprint class. It's going to give us a pick parent class context menu. Go ahead and select the actor type because it is an object that will be placed or spawned in the world. So let's go ahead and select actor. We're going to call this let's call it the base pickup. So this is our, we can call it, let's call it template pickup. That's a better word. So template pickup, because this pickup is going to be used not for just an individual type of pickup. It could serve for this blueprint can be used for any type of pickup that we want to create, essentially. So for starters, in this template pickup here, let's go ahead and double click and open it up. And it's going to open it to the viewport tab inside of the blueprint editor here. And the first thing that we're going to do is add some components to it. So up in the upper left up here, under the component section, let's click the add component button. And let's search for a scene component. So this is just a dummy component that we can attach and offset other things to it. So we're going to select scene. And we're going to name this root. And I'm just going to left click and drag and drop that up and make that our new root, like so. So with that in place, let's add a couple more components. So I'm going to click the add component button. And we're going to add a static mesh component, like so. Static mesh. And we're also going to add another component. This is going to be a sphere collision. So sphere collision component. This is going to be our trigger volume. So I'm actually going to call this trigger. So trigger over here in the components window. And I think that's all we need to add for now. We need to make some adjustments to these though. So first off, we'll start with the static mesh. So let's select our static mesh here. And over in the details panel, we need to assign the default mesh to use for our template pickup. And we're going to click the drop down and we're going to search for, let's use the cylinder. This will be our first one. So shape underscore cylinder. So we're going to use the shape underscore cylinder as our default template pickup object. It's going to add it to the viewport. It's kind of big, so let's scale this down. I'm going to hop up to the transform section under scale. I'm going to bump this down to 0.25 all the way around for X, Y, and Z. So something like that. Looks like a can to me that could be sitting in our level. Looks good. Now we need to bump up our trigger volume as it's very small. So let's actually select it in the components. And over in the details panel, let's set the scale to, let's say, 8 by 8 by 8 for now. And that looks better. So once we're inside of here, we'll allow the player to pick up the pickup. So with that, I think we're good for now. We may come back to this later and make some more adjustments in the final video in this series just for some fine tuning. But for now, I think we're good. Let's compile. And let's hop over to the event graph, as we need to provide the scripted functionality for this pickup now. So on the event graph, there's going to be a lot of script that we need to create here. But before we get into that, let's create some variables so that we have those for reference when we start working inside of our script here. So in the My Blueprint panel, let's go to the variables section and add some variables. Click the Add Variable button. First variable that we're going to be creating is called isInRange, question mark. This is going to let us know if the player is, in fact, in range of the pickup, at which point we will allow them to pick up the item. And we're going to trigger this based off of our trigger. So when the player enters the trigger volume, we'll set this to true. When they exit it, we'll set it to false. So for now, let's continue adding some variables. Let's just add another variable. This variable is going to be called item info, like so. Over in the details panel, we're going to change the variable type here. So let's click the drop down. It's going to be an inventory struct variable type. So go ahead and select the inventory struct, like so. If we compile now, if we go back to that property in the details panel under the default value, we can expand item info, and there's all the properties that we can now define for our pickup. So for our base template pickup here, let's say for the item image, since we're using that cylinder, we'll use our can texture because that's the shape that we are using. And by default, we'll say that our pickup text is canned beans, like so. And our action is to eat beans, because that's usually what you do with them. So we are set on our settings for our pickup. There's one more setting here called item. This refers to the individual instance of our pickup in the level. And we're going to set this automatically here in a moment once we start doing our script here. So let's continue and add the rest of our variables that we'll need. Let's add another variable. This variable is going to be called add health. I'm going to change the variable type over in the details panel. Clicking drop down, it's going to be a float. We're going to use this to give our player character, or subtract if we wanted to, health. So we're going to do the same for energy and mood. So I'm going to click the add variable button and say add energy. One more, add mood for this one. Going to hit compile from the toolbar and set some default values for those. Feel free to set these to whatever you'd like. For now, I'm going to set mine to, say, 0.25. This gives me 0.25 mood when I use this item. It also gives me, say, 0.25 energy. And let's say it gives us 0.25 health too. I guess I could have mixed these up, but for now, that's what I'll set these to. I think that's good. I think that's all we need to set. For now, we can begin creating the scripted functionality for our pickup now. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to kill all of these nodes because I want to start with a fresh graph here. So I'm going to delete all those. We have an empty graph now. So the first thing that we're going to do, let's right-click in our graph, and let's search for that event begin play. I guess I didn't need to delete that one. So event begin play. Let's zoom in so you can see it. First thing that we're going to do is drag off the executable here and say create widget. So create a widget is the first thing that we're going to do. And that widget that we're going to create is our pickup text widget. So the text that should appear above this pickup item in game, we're going to create that. So let's go ahead and create it. But we are not necessarily going to add it to the viewport yet. We are only going to add it to the viewport when the player is in range of the pickup. So all we're going to do is right click on the return value here and promote this to a variable so that we can call it later when we need to. So let's rename this in the My Blueprint panel over here. And we're going to say pickup text reference, like so. Like so. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to hold Control and drag in our item info here. So let's hold Control and drag that into the graph, like so. And what we need to do now is pass information from our item info. So our pickup text, our thumbnail, our action text. We need to pass this to our pickup text widget so that it knows what the pickup actor is, it knows what the pickup text is, etc. So we need to pass that information. We're not necessarily passing the thumbnail, but we do need to know the pickup text to pass over and the item to pass over. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's drag off of the item info here and say break inventory struct. So break inventory structure, that's going to give us the item that we can pass. That's going to give us the pickup text that we can pass to our pickup text widget blueprint. So let's go ahead and let's see. How do I want to do this? Before we actually pass this, there's one more thing that we should do. We need to, as I mentioned before, if I expand this, we need to specify the instance of this particular pickup. So we need to know which instance are we talking about in the level, because we could have multiple pickups of the same type in our level, and we need to know which one the pickup text should appear over. So to do that, what we can do is we can right click in the graph and we can search for set members in inventory struct. So this allows us to set the values of our inventory structure manually. So right now, there's only one pin on here. If we right click on this node, somewhere over here, not on the actual pin itself, but somewhere over here, perhaps there's an option for restore all structure pins. Go ahead and select that. It's going to give us all of our pins back. And what we need to do now is for the item here, we need to drag off of this and say get reference to self. So get a reference to our self. So self. And then what we need to do is take our item info and plug that into the structure reference, like so. Now for the item image and the pickup text and the action text, we are already assigning that inside the details panel for this variable. We don't need to reassign it here. So what we can do again is right click on this node, or not this node, right click on this pin, the item pin, right click on that and say remove all other pins. So now what we've done is anytime we've placed a pickup inside of our level and the game begins, we're going to get a reference to each individual one and assign that to our item info variable here. So it just prevents, or it just allows us to skip the process of manually defining individual instances inside of our blueprint. It does it for us automatically. So with that out of the way, I'm going to connect the set node here to our set members in inventory struct, like so. And then the next thing that we need to do, I'm going to hold Control just for cleanliness and drag in our pickup text reference here. So I'm going to Control drag that in. It's the same thing as this one here as we've set. And we're going to drag off of this now. We're going to say set pickup actor. So now we are defining the pickup actor for our pickup text widget. And going to connect this to this, like so. Then I'm also going to drag off this again and say set pickup text. So we're defining the pickup text to appear, like so. Let's connect this to this, like so. And then let's connect our item that we've defined here in this node. We're going to take that item and plug that into our pickup actor. We're going to take our pickup text and plug that into our pickup text here. So with those set, there's one more thing that we need to do for this sequence here. Well, two actually. We need to right click in the graph and search for get player character so that we get a reference to the player character. And from the player character, we need to access the character blueprint that is being used. So we need to cast to it. So cast to first person character. That's the blueprint that we are using. So go ahead and select that. And once we have that, let's connect this to this like so. Once we have reference to our first person character blueprint here, let's actually create a variable for that. So let's right click on this pin here and say promote to variable. And we're going to call this character reference like so. So I've done that over here in the My Blueprint panel. So there's our character reference. And once we have that, we can drag off of this now. And what we need to do next is actually pause. We need to pause here. We're not going to actually do this part yet. We're going to come back to this because we need to inside of our player character blueprint, allow the player to press a button and pick up the item, which we have not done yet. I forgot we haven't done that yet. So we're going to skip this section, but we're going to come back to this in a moment. So for now, let's zoom out and select all of this and hit C for comment and say event begin play. And let's see, we're about 20 minutes in. Let's do the rest of this script. So let's do the rest of the script, and then we'll do in the next video. In the next video, we will set it up so that the player can press a button and pick up an item. And then we'll come back and set it up in this blueprint where the item gets picked up and added to the inventory. So let's do two more things, and we'll close this video out. Let's right-click in the graph, and let's search for... Well, no, let's not right-click in the graph. Let's go to our My Blueprint panel over here, and let's expand components. Let's get our trigger here and select it. Over in the details panel, let's move this over a little bit. We want to add on component begin overlap and on component end overlap events. So let's click the plus sign for on component begin overlap, and then select our trigger again and add one for the end overlap. So now that we have a way to check if the player has overlapped our trigger, we can enable him or her to pick up the item. So first thing we'll do is check and make sure that it is the first person character that has overlapped the trigger volume. So let's drag off of the other actor here and say cast to first person character. So cast to the first person character here, like so. This will tell us that only first-person characters can overlap this trigger volume. If it is not the first-person character, the cast will fail, and we won't do anything. So I'm going to select this and hit Control-C, and Control-V to paste it, and connect this one, like so. And once we've overlapped or exited the trigger, we're going to hold Control and drag in our pickup text reference that we created, which is the text that appears above our pickups themselves. Now we can add this to the viewport. So let's add it to viewport by dragging off and saying add to viewport, like so. And let's connect the executable out to the in here. Then we also need to make sure that our player is in range. So let's hold Alt. Let's drag that in to the graph while holding Alt to create a setter. Let's connect this to this. And let's check this box here to make sure that we do set it to true. Then we're going to drag off the pickup text reference one more time here, and we're going to say remove from parent. This will remove the item from the, remove the pickup text from the viewport, so remove from parent. We're going to connect the executable here, and like so. And let's take our is in range, hit Control-C and Control-V, uncheck this one, and connect this like this. So when we overlap the trigger, make sure it's the first person character. If it is, great. Then we're going to add the pickup text to the viewport, set that the player is in range, which we will get to probably in the next video, allowing the player to pick up the item. And then when they exit the trigger, make sure that it's the player character that exits the trigger, remove the text that is displayed, and say that the player is not in range. So this is, let's select all of this and hit C. This is the overlap trigger script, like so. And the last thing that we'll do in this video, let's go ahead and do this really quickly. We need to provide the functionality that happens when this item is used. So what happens when the player decides to use, they've picked up this item, it's in their inventory, they select it in their inventory, and they choose to use it. What happens? So let's go ahead and set that up. To do that, we're going to need to implement our Blueprint interface, which has our use and our drop functionality in it. So let's go up to the class settings, and over in the details panel, under interfaces, click the add button, and action interface is our interface that we want to use. Let's compile. And now if we right click in the graph, we can search for event use action. So there's our event use action. So go ahead and select it. And when it will get added, and you can see it has a little icon letting us know that it is an interface event. And for this particular use action, what we're going to do, let's hold control. Let's drag in our character reference, so reference to our first-person character blueprint. And inside of our first-person character blueprint, it has our health, energy, and mood. So let's go ahead and set those whenever we use this particular item. So I'm going to drag off this, and I'm going to say set health value. I'm also going to say set energy value, and I'm also going to say set mood value. So with all of those, let's connect all of these up like so, and like so. And then we need to get the current energy value so that we can add to it and set that as our new value. So for this, what we're going to do, let's drag off and say get health, and then get energy. And I'm just left clicking and dragging off and saying get mood. So now that we have a reference to each of those, I'm gonna kind of line this up. It's gonna be a little bit messy, so kind of bear with me here. So something like this, what we're gonna do is add to these current values. So I'm gonna drag off the health value here, hit a plus sign, float plus float, like so. And if you recall, earlier on, we created those variables that we want to add whenever this item is used. So I'm going to drag my add health, plug that in right here, like so. So we're getting our current health value, adding to it this health parameter that we've created. And I'm going to plug the return value to set our new health, like so. So I'm going to do the same thing for energy and mood, and then we're going to wrap this video up. So let's drag off the energy value, hit plus, so float plus float. And then let's take our energy, just left click and drag that in. So it's adding the energy that we set, kind of arrange these in some manner here so that it makes sense. So then let's drag off the output and plug that into our energy. And then the last one, let's drag off the mood, plus float plus float. Let's take our mood, connect that right here, like so, and then take our output and plug that into our mood. My neatness is completely gone out the window here. So yeah, let's kind of stack these a little bit. Maybe that'll make them read a little bit better. Probably could have done functions for these or something to make it look cleaner. This looks a little bit better. So we're getting health, adding to it from our current health, etc. The last thing that we'll do, once we've used the item, let's drag off the in here and say destroy actor. So we're going to destroy the actor once it has been used. So let's add a comment around this. Let's hit C and say use action. So let's compile and save. We are at the 30-minute mark. This is a 30-minute video. It's a little bit longer than I wanted, but we got a lot done. We've set up all the functionality for our pickup, with the exception of the actual adding the item to our inventory. So when the item is picked up, what do we do and how is it added to the inventory? We'll do that in the next video. But again, what we've done in this video is created our pickup, our template pickup that we can use to create other pickups out of. We also created all the script for that pickup. And in the next video, we'll create the script for adding it to our inventory and then testing our inventory system. So with that, let's pause here and thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.